that people know they can speak freely.
That is nice.
And then I can shaft them and release it anyway.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, fuck them. Burn all your bridges. So thank you for doing this, first of all. I really appreciate you taking the time out. I was at Lowlands, and I was on the Friday, I think. I was there, and I was like in front of, say, where you and Chase were.
Yeah.
And there was not like, I ended up being upstairs, and I shouldn't have been. Like, I kind of snuck. There was like an unmanned escalator, and I just kind of wandered up. And I got some interviews and stuff. And I had messaged Chase, and Chase was like, "Oh yeah, come round." And there was like a barrier saying like, no entry on this point. And I was like, okay, that looks like it will be a bit of a piss take, because I'd have to go beyond that. And I was like, not only would I have to go through that barrier, I would then have to walk like 700 meters in full visibility of everyone. I've got like, there's no, like, it's like, oh, sorry, I took a wrong turn. It's like, there was no way of explaining it. So I just left it. But yeah, it was a great competition. Did you enjoy, that's the first live one in a while now. How did you find it?
Yeah. Oh, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome. It was like Chase and I were talking about it, and I said it's kind of like a class reunion, but with all the people you want to meet. Like, all the assholes stayed home, and then you got to hang out with all your actual friends. And that's really what it felt like. And it felt like that, I think, for everybody. We met a bunch of the athletes to check in as well, and they're always happy to meet. But I mean, they're ecstatic to meet this time. So I think we're all kind of looking forward to it, and then it just really turned out great as well. So yeah.
Is commentary something that you do a lot of?
No. I mean, I do it for CrossFit competitions. I've been doing it for the functional fitness competitions a couple of times as well. But no.
And had you done, like, say, regionals and stuff, commentary, or is like the semi-final, would that be the biggest commentary you've done, or have you done other things in CrossFit?
No, I've done the games. So I mean, that was pretty big. Yeah, no, that was pretty big. And then I've done regionals quite a few times, and then I did some of the sanctional events as well. So I mean, I've been doing it for quite some time now.
And how did you get into that in the first place? Like, how did you so, like, had you done other things and then said, oh, I'd actually be good at doing that, or had someone heard you doing something else and thought you'd be good, or was it just your general, like, expertise?
Oh man, I wish it was the latter. Just me being super smart and people going, we need to hear him say something. But that's not what it was. I mean, the way it worked was that way back, the first regionals ever to be held in Europe, or in the Nordics, actually in Europe, were in Halmstad, and I was the regional director for them, for those. And then we went to Ballerup Super Arena after that, and I was in charge of that for the first 2 years. And then Oliver Amdrup took over, so I was the regional director. And one of those regionals was in Bolton in England. So it was the year after we'd been in Halmstad at Laker. And we were all set up. We were ready to go. But it was the first year that things were kind of bigger, and we had a Reebok partnership and everything like that. And on the morning of the competition, the guy who's supposed to be the floor announcer calls up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not coming in today." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm not coming in. So you're just gonna have to do it without me." And I don't think any of us kind of understood that was a big deal. And so I looked at Carl Stedman, and I was like, "Dude, are you okay with, like, the way we're running the competition? Do you think you need me?" He's like, "Dude, you're the regional director." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but we don't have a floor announcer." So I grabbed the mic and just started getting after it. I had no idea what I was going to say. I didn't have any other prep than I kind of knew all the athletes from being on seminar staff, and so I just got after it. And then I guess people thought it was fun, and I thought it was fun. So I kept on doing it more and more and more. And then when Oliver took over for regionals and became the regional director, he's like, "Would you want to be the floor announcer?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And then we started getting coverage, and Rory McKernan came over, and he's like, you should be up here with me. You shouldn't be on the floor. You should be up here with me." I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And then the year after, I was invited to do that. And I think it went pretty well. Then the next year I did it again. And that's the year I think I was asked to go to the games. So I went to the games, did that, came back, and then been doing competitions all over Europe ever since. So yeah, no, really not very smart, but just happened to be there at the right time.
It's like there's very few things that I feel put your heart in your mouth as much as like emceeing or like, you know, like standing. And like it's funny because I did it like say last summer just for a local event. And I remember talking to Greg and Dylan from Loud and Live, and I was like, "What? Like what? Like?" I was like, "Is this stupid? Like, am I stupid doing this? Like, is this a mistake or whatever?" And it was interesting because both of them said pretty much the same thing as each other. They were both like, you know, placating at the start. They were like, "Oh, you'll do great" or whatever. But then the key point that both of them echoed was 90% of people won't listen to what you're saying. Like, they just
Yeah.
won't take any of it in. And then the 10% that do can't rewind. So like even if you say something really stupid, they're going
Yep.
to, at worst case is going to be, did he just say what I think? And then it's gone. And like, you
Yep.
know, what can you do? And he was like, people listen out for their own names, athletes listen out for the timestamps and, you
Yep.
know, like that kind of, and who's ahead, who's behind, that kind of stuff. So I think that put me at ease a good bit, but it is like gut wrenching. Like when you, like, I don't think I've ever felt my breath like speed up so much before not doing something, or you know what I mean. It was
Yeah.
very very weird. When you're commentating then it's obviously very different because like people are listening to what you're saying and people like kind of can rewind and can listen back. Is it a
Yes.
different kind of pressure doing that?
Um, Yes, it is. But I think I alleviated that stress pretty fast. Or I didn't do it actually. I think Rory and Chase kind of helped me out because I mean I was putting a bunch of stress on myself because they're awesome at what they do, and I really wasn't. I was just kind of shooting the shit out of what I know about the athletes, the boxes, the judges, the competition, and all of that stuff. But I really wanted to be better, and they pretty much just told me just do what you do, just slow down, say what it is you want to say. Um, you're the expert commentator, so we're going to ask you why, and you're going to have to answer that question. So just do that, and then I just did, and then at the end of the day, I was like, if I do a bad job, they're not going to ask me to come back. I'm trying to be nice to all the athletes because I think it's amazing that they kind of put themselves on the line and they go out there and perform in front of a bunch of people. I mean, that's got to be gut wrenching.
Mm.
So I was really nervous to start with, but not anymore.
And is it hard like because I say I felt say we'll go at Lowlands like just for because it's the most recent, but there's events there like with you know the long assault run, and it's kind of like there's only so much you can talk about like, and like
Yeah.
say if you're commentating on heat one and then in say the women's and then you're commentating on heat three in the men's, that's you've done this is your sixth heat of a long assault run,
Yes.
and it's just kind of like right, okay. And then I was thinking of it like the next day then you had the whatever 2000 devil represses, so it's kind of like it's just, like again there's only so much where you can be like well they're still on
Yeah.
the runners. Like, you know, are they the harder? Is it harder to commentate when it's like frantic and there's loads of stuff happening and like say like a team event, and you're trying to make sense of who's who and where's where and who's ahead and who's behind? Or is it harder to commentate on those kind of like potential dead air ones where it's like, okay, they're starting a 2000-meter row. What
Yeah.
the fuck are we going to talk about for the entirety of this? And then because obviously it gets exciting towards the end, we see hands going up, but in the middle, there's only I
Yeah.
suppose so many times you can say, well, it's really important they pace this or whatever.
No, but I think those are like the worst for me are the team events that are kind of like logistically a mess, so you can't really tell who's ahead, or like the lifting events when everybody's kind of lifts left, right, and center, and you don't really know who to follow. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you need to comment whoever is on screen. So whatever people are seeing at home, that's what you want to add value to.
Mm,
At the same time, you want to kind of direct the cameras on the floor to, well, you should probably go to that platform because that could get interesting really fast. But also you want to get some kind of human reaction as well of this person just did really well and what does that mean for them moving forward. So I think those are the hard ones, the ones where you have like 2000-meter row or 5K run or whatever it is. I like those because it opens up the kind of the floodgates for Chase and I in this case, but it's been Sean or it's been Rory or somebody else, where you can start having a conversation about, well, the overall field, where they're at,
mm,
what is this going to mean for them, what kind of times are we kind of projecting. But then you can also become like really kind of nerdy, which I really like, and start looking at, so okay, so what's happening to form now? Is this because they just have a bad form, or is this a form that they've kind of developed themselves, or is this deteriorating because they didn't pace themselves correctly? and then you can kind of start feeding into theories like that, and then see what happens during the event. So I think I kind of like those events. I know a lot of people don't, and they get all freaked out and they're like, "Oh, this is really boring." I'm like, "Well, it's kind of where we get to be important for once, because we can add some kind of excitement about it. Is like, okay, just look at that guy's shoulders on that run. It's not doing very well. He's starting to tilt forward, so he's not doing right. He's not doing right anymore. It's going to cost him in a second." And then just kind of see whether that pans out or not, and not be afraid to be wrong. I mean, we're looking at it the same way everybody else is. We don't know what's going on, but I think so. Those aren't the worst events. I'm petrified though of the events where we may miss something that's fundamental to the event.
Yeah. How much do you rely then on someone like, say, like I know Brian Friend was in Lowlands. I assume you're heavily reliant on, you can know so much, but then in the moment, it's good to have someone in your ear saying, "Oh, he actually finished sixth last
Oh
time
yeah,
in whatever."
yeah. No, I mean, having Brian around, or being able to get somebody like Chad Schroeder as well, to have them kind of in the background, it just means the world. I mean, it's just it. I can't really explain how much it is, because it's just like you said, it's kind of like a cheat sheet, where it's like, I wonder, well, and then it's like ding ding ding, there you go, and then you get all these little points, and you're like, how did you remember that? Who are you anyways? And then they're like, I don't know, just had the numbers, and then they just keep on feeding you those numbers. So you kind of you build a narrative out of it, but it can that they do become the backbone.
Have you seen? Do you follow like Andrew Hiller or
Yeah,
any of this stuff? What do you think of him?
I mean, I kind of like him. I mean,
I fucking really like him.
what I like is that he's completely honest about it. He's like, "Oh, dude, this is clickbait. This is what it is." But he speaks his mind, and I like that. Now, whether you agree with the opinion or not, it's not really important. I just like that it's uncensored, it's uncut, it's kind of raw, and I think he speaks what a lot of people have on their mind as well.
Hmm.
Especially now with all the stuff that's going on with the Nordic team, where Victor's been disqualified and everything. I appreciate what he's done before, and I really appreciate the post he made about that as well.
I think like one of the things. So when he was around first, and I think a lot of people are guilty of this, and I think I'm not holding myself up as like a fucking beacon of righteousness or anything, but like I'm proud of myself for reevaluating things with him, because I think a lot of people won't. I think I saw him and I didn't watch anything he put out, and I was like, here we fucking go. Another like he just hates that he can't do what they can do. It's character assassination. He's just picking people and tearing them apart, whatever. Didn't watch any of them. And then I watched him on Savan's show, and I was like, oh fuck, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
watched him on Savans again, and like another couple of times, and I was blown away by like one of the things that impresses me most about Brian Friend is just his encyclopedic knowledge of like he can be like, well, yeah, in 2013 there was an event, and he'll just pick something, and you're like, how the fuck do you remember that?
I
But
know.
Hitler's the same. Like
Yeah,
Savan was saying something about, and there's two things I like. One is that he can be asked a question and he'll say, oh yeah, I think like 2015 such and such a person did whatever, and you're like, wow, that's really impressive, like that you can remember that, and like also a little bit pathetic, but impressive. And then but then he could be asked another question and he'll say, oh well, I actually don't think so, but I'm not sure, maybe my memory might be failing me a little bit there. I think maybe just can't think of anything off the top of my head. And it's like, that's also impressive that he's
yeah,
comfortable saying like, I don't know, or he's
yeah,
comfortable saying like, I think so, but I might be wrong there. And that I think gives extra weight when he says, I'm definitely right.
exactly.
Because he can hold his hands up and say, oh, not really sure about that. So I think, yeah, no, I'm definitely someone who assumed he was an asshole, um, and in so doing made an asshole out of myself. But I like he's coming on the show soon. I've been in touch with him a few times. I think, like you say, the stuff he's doing where uh and it is clickbait, and I don't like clickbait, but I like what he's doing with it. He's not like, and he's made no secret of the fact that he does want clout. He does want like recognition
Yeah,
himself, which is fine. I'd rather him say that than pretend he doesn't when he really does. But
yeah,
also, it's like the Nordic thing, like like they're the things that everyone is disgruntled about, but nobody's able to do anything about. So the bigger he gets, and the
yeah.
more limelight he gets, surely the more of an influence he can have and stuff like that.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, even when he did that piece about Frederick Gidius and the reps and all of that, I like the way he did it. He was really clear about the fact this isn't about Freddie. It's not about
Yeah.
Freddie's reps. It's about something else. This is just an example I'm using to kind of make a point. And so it's not. I was afraid that it was going to be character assassination and just like I'm going to use these people as stepping stones to get my 15 minutes of fame. But then you start listening to it, and it's not. I mean, it's got a valid point, and he's looking for an argument or a discussion about it. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we need to do. Is kind of like cast the light on the troll in the corner and watch it disappear. But if you don't, then it's just going to get worse and worse. And I
Yeah.
think that's what he does really, really well. And I like that that he uses people and scenarios that actually happened so that everybody can relate to it. But he's also not dumping a bunch of crap on these people. He's just like, it's not your fault. I mean, if you're being judged that way, then obviously
Mm.
you're going to do this, or if this happens to you, you're going to do this. But yeah, I like that. No, I like him a lot. I think
Mm.
I enjoy it. Yeah.
Um, are you still on seminar staff?
No, no. So God, I left a long time ago. Yeah.
Um, and because you owned CrossFit Nordic originally, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
And do you
Start.
still own it?
No, no. So my wife does. When I started working for Reebok, I really couldn't have a box at the same time, and she was working at a spa and really really wanted to get involved with CrossFit. So it was kind of like it was kind of a great place to kind of hand over to her. And now that she's not around, I can tell you as well. The box has been doing so much better from her being a part of it than me being a part of it. No, because I mean we're a bunch of guys who just wanted somewhere to be that we can do CrossFit. There was no other CrossFit like purebred CrossFit affiliate in Stockholm at that time,
Mm.
and we just wanted a place to throw some bars around and do some hero wads. That was all we wanted. And she came in and she's just like she had a whole business perspective on the box as well. I don't think we had. I don't think we saw the potential that way at that point.
Mm.
So yeah, no, so she does it. I still have classes at the box as much as I possibly can with my job. But yeah,
And what is your job?
I'm the COO of a gaming company.
Like esports?
Well, kind of. So we don't really do the games. It's more like imagine a platform that combines your Reddit, your Discord, your Twitch, your everything into one. That's what we are. So we're a startup now that's been around for 3.5 years.
Okay, we'll come back to that because I have questions. How did you? Are you one of those classic stories of I liked training, I saw someone doing CrossFit, found CrossFit.com? Is that your story into the sport?
Well, kind of. I mean, I was doing MMA, and once again, this is the story of my life. I'm not very good at anything, but I was doing MMA, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I had a fight coming up, and the guy who had the studio was like, "Hey, you should try CrossFit." And at that time, I was working as a personal trainer, and I was like, "CrossFit, dude, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. They do back exercises one day, and the next day they're still doing back, so it's just stupid." He's like, "Give it 8 weeks. Could you please try?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll try." After those 8 weeks, I had my fight. Didn't do very well, and just handed in my gloves. And I was like, CrossFit is the shit, dude. Where do I get to learn more about it? But at that point, nobody in the Nordics had taken a level one. There were no boxes, like not one. Um,
What
so
year was this round?
this was 2004, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
2004. So I dropped everything and just went CrossFit is shit and went to Denver and did a level one along with a friend of mine. We had no clue what we were doing. We had like we just had CrossFit.com, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Did that, came back. My friend was or he is a very, very gifted Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach. So he's like, no, this is what I'm gonna spend my time on. And I just kind of went full retard into CrossFit. So yeah, that's how I found it.
And like if you were doing MMA, is that like were you active like throughout your childhood and like sporty all the way up, or was it like something that you found more in adulthood?
No, no, I've always done sports and like everybody else. Played soccer a long time, and then I found Taekwondo. Then from Taekwondo into Muay Thai, and then from Muay Thai into MMA.
Yeah. Um, how did so did you open? You went to Denver. That's so like amazing that you traveled so far to do level one. Like, which I know was kind of the thing back there because there was no alternative. I know like Carl Stedman did similar, and like
Yeah,
it's. I just think that's so cool that people would go. would go that all in, because I suppose now I know geographically it's not any closer, but economically it's a lot closer. America's a lot closer to Europe now than it was
Yeah.
then. Like it's a lot. It wasn't. It's like if you said to someone like, "Oh, I'm going to America in the morning," they'd be like, "Oh, cool." Whereas like in the early noughties, you said I'm going to America, they'd be like, "Wow, okay, like
Yeah.
what's this about?" Um, it's yeah, I just find that so impressive that you'd go that all in. And then how was when you came back then? Was it say um like two needs being met by people they were looking for seminar staff in Europe and stuff, and then you were like one of the early adopters and knew more than most about it? Is that how that worked?
Well, they weren't really looking for anybody when I got back. So what happened was I got back and I was just like, this is so much fun. This is so cool. I had a blast in Denver. So I told my wife that, we need to go to Santa Cruz. So not too long after that, we packed up our bags and we pretty much spent our entire vacation. So 3 weeks in Santa Cruz. And so in the old HQ when it was back in the garage. So we went there and got to hang out with Greg Amundsen, Annie Sakamoto. Coach was still there. Nicole was hanging out there as well, and just worked out. So just that's all we did. And they were just looking at us like, you traveled from Sweden to work out in a garage. We were like, yes, this is so awesome. And we just hit it off really well with them and Hollis Malloy and everybody else. And that was back when Brendan Gilliam was also a part of the crew before everybody kind of split up. We got along really well with everybody. Started hanging out like after we kind of worked out as well. Went back to Sweden, stayed in touch, and at that point there hadn't been a level one in Europe. So the first one in Europe was in Manchester at Carlsbox. So I kind of reached out and said, if you ever need seminar staff, I'm interested. So we got to do kind of an internship at the in Manchester, and then it got formalized for the level one in Stockholm. Got my shirt along with Carl Stedman in Stockholm, and then the week after that, hey, Copenhagen, here you go. So there was another level one, and that's how it started.
That's so cool. And do you miss it now, like not doing it?
I miss it. I mean, I had such a blast on seminar staff. It was just getting to meet people in the boxes, people who were kind of, just as fired up about CrossFit as I was at that point. And so yeah, no, I do miss that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny. Like I've said to a few people that I want to do it, and I have like people saying like, "Oh, there's probably like not a lot there that you won't have heard like by interviewing people or by just being around it and whatever." And it's like, yeah, but like imagine just being in a room where everyone has the exact same interests as you and everyone's as hyped to be there as you are. Like it's so rare. The only
Yeah.
other thing I can think of is like, when you're at semifinals or if you're at a concert of an unusual band, like
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
everyone there is there because they like that band, not just because they heard
Yes.
one song or whatever. Yeah, it's a unique kind of atmosphere, I think.
Well, I think it's both that, and I think it's the rest of seminar staff as well. I mean, we had a blast. We were a really, really tight kind of gang, and we were hanging out a lot, and everybody was incredibly supportive of everything that you wanted to do. So that was every time you got together, it was with people who genuinely cared about you. And that kind of spilled into the level ones as well, where it was this thing of somebody would show up and they'd be an aerobics instructor, and you'd be like, okay, so what are the experiences that you have? We were also hungry to learn, and we weren't like. I think one of the great things were that at that point we weren't too caught up in, oh, this is CrossFit, this isn't CrossFit. It was more like, what is it that you do when you have a class that works really well? Now let me show you CrossFit, but also tell me about what it is you do, or you're a long distance runner. And so there was this humbleness to, we're teaching you CrossFit methodology, but we're also wondering where you're from and who you are as a person. And I think that just made for a really, really positive environment. And then after a while, my wife became a part of seminar staff as well. So, I mean, that was kind of awesome.
Yeah. How did it come to an end then?
I just, a bunch of different things where it's like, it was a bit of work. It was a bit of, I think I kind of had my fill, and seminar staff got to a point where it got so big that I just felt like we weren't that group anymore. And so, yeah, just I felt like it was important that the experience at the level one seminars was still for the participants. And I felt like there was too much politics within the group. So I just felt like I'd rather leave so I don't become a part of that, and I don't, and kind of the skirmishes and the politics that I would then, or that I kind of found myself drug into, wouldn't influence the experience people got in the level one.
Or your own memories of it either, I suppose. Like you don't want to look back and then be like, "Oh, that was shit," because you
Yeah,
spent too long in that period, I guess.
yeah. I could have probably made it work, but it was at the same time there was a bunch of work going on as well, and I always loved what we did. I mean, I never got to the point where I kind of got rotten of it. I could have potentially, I guess,
Mm.
now that I think of it, but that didn't happen. So I mean, I still have a lot of love for everybody on seminar staff. I try to hang out with them as much as possible. I refer to them as brothers, all of them, because I think they are. We were all going through a bunch of really funny stuff together and trying to help spread this thing. I mean, at my level one, I sat next to Chris Spieler, and one of the things that we were talking about one night was like, imagine if we could make a living out of this. And we both started laughing. We're like, this is never going to happen, but that's awesome. Look at where we are now. And so to
Yeah,
have been a
crazy.
part of that, and we were on seminar staff at the same time as well. So I think that was no, I think everything has a time and a place, and I think I left when I had to, but God, I miss it. Yeah.
But like, because like, say if you walk away from something, um, because you just feel like the time is right, but then I mean, like soon after you walk away, you watch like the house kind of crumble a bit and like it's on fire and people are jumping out to save themselves or being thrown out like to
Yeah.
save whatever's left. Like is that like when obviously you're not nobody would ever be happy to see something that they love being I just guess like torn apart from the inside and the outside or whatever. But like when you are as involved as you were from so early and you have like fingers in a lot of different CrossFit pies, will say, like you were a box owner, you were seminar staff, you were you've traveled to America for it, you were commentating, you were involved in regionals, like that's a lot of different hats to have or whatever.
Yeah.
Like is it like what do you feel then when that's happening? Like what do you feel when you see the controversy around Greg and then that he's sells the company and the all the changes that are being made and all the new language or the new like ways that things are going to be done, and then Dave is gone, and like are you just kind of are you able to just sit back and be like, well, thank God I got out when I did, or is it just way
No.
worse than that?
No, it's I can't just. I mean, I tried when everything happened. I kind of tried to lean back and go, nah, well, it's going to be all right. I'm not a part of this anymore. But then I kind of realized that I am. My wife still runs the box. I still coach athletes. I've had something to do with regional semifinals, sanctionals, whatever it is, all the time. So I was too invested not to react. But at the same time, I kind of saw the things that happened as a natural progression of what has to happen with an organization as it grows,
Mm.
and so I don't think I was as upset as a lot of people were. I think it was more, I kind of saw it as a natural progression of what had to happen. Every single solitary company I've ever been a part of, where that's had like an entrepreneur that kind of started and drove it to a certain point, these things have happened. It's bound to happen. Large multinational national companies or companies that I've been a part of, same thing happens. And I think as soon as you start looking at CrossFit that way, I don't think anybody's really too surprised. Um,
Mm.
so, I mean, I was heartbroken. I didn't want it to fall apart, but at the same time, I was like, these things happen.
Yeah. Um, did you do like business in university or college or how? Because you,
Yeah,
you seem, yeah. And is it like business management? Would that be your
yeah.
area? Okay. And what kind of companies have you? Sorry, now. So I need to go back to that the gaming thing. So was the gaming startup? Was that you finished your seminar staff stint, you like stepped away from the box and moved straight into this? Is that the progression, or was there more in between?
No, oh God, there was so much more. Like a fast way through is like I went from the box to starting to working for Reebok. So I was in charge of the Reebok CrossFit partnership and all other partnerships that we had in the Nordics to start with. And then after a while, I kind of got to a point where I was in charge of Europe, for all Reebok core partnerships. So UFC, Les Mills, you know, Spartan races, all of that stuff.
Is
So
that a cool job, or is it something that maybe sounds really cool and it's actually just kind of a lot of politics and that kind of stuff?
no, it is one of the absolute coolest things that I've
Okay.
ever done in my life. I would have loved to stay. I would have loved to stay. Reebok was an amazing brand, and I had so much fun. It was like, I was insane. It's just so much fun. I don't know where to begin, but like made friends for life, and had experiences that I never thought I was going to be able to have. So,
Mm,
but the problem was I would have had to move to Germany, and my family wasn't ready for that. So so I jumped off.
mm,
Everything I ever did. The one common denominator has always been that if I have to choose between this and my family, I'm always going to choose my family.
mm.
So I had to. So I left Reebok after 5.5, almost 6 years, which was really, really cool. I mean, I love that company. But then I went to
Yeah.
Eleiko, and took over their education. So global education for Eleiko. Did that
That's cool.
for a little bit more than 2 years. Then I started working at an advertising agency, as their business director.
Okay.
Just because I had a friend of mine worked there, and they were kind of going through a period of time where they needed to kind of work on their offering and their positioning of the company altogether. So I did that for a bit more than 2 years, and then I was like, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to write a book, and I want to start selling courses, because I kind of had this idea of this business development thing that this plan where it was basically your brand as a service. So how do you position yourself in your gym and your in the market altogether? And I wanted to do lectures, and I wanted to do courses about that. But then enter Corona. So I was like, shoot, maybe I'm just going to be off for a year and do nothing. See how this plays out. And at the same time as that happened, the gaming company reached out to me, and they're like, we need a COO. Would you be interested in doing this? And I was like, nope, don't know anything about gaming. And they're like, well, we know plenty about gaming, but we have other challenges. I was like, no, 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 no. The CEO though we kept on talking to each other, and I was a bit intrigued, because he kept on talking about communities, and he kept on talking about in terminologies that I could kind of relate to CrossFit, but instead of
Mm.
CrossFit being the uniting factor, it was like, this is gaming. I didn't know anything about gaming, so we kept on talking and talking. He's like, dude, you're asking a lot of questions. You sure you don't want to do this? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And so I've been there for 2.5 years now.
What's a COO?
So the chief operation officer. So basically, I'm in charge. Like, our CEO is basically out chasing financial opportunities to make sure that we survive until we are viable ourselves. And so what I do is I take care of the entire company so that he can do that.
Okay. That's cool. You kind of mind the house while he goes from bank to
Yeah,
bank.
yeah. Bank to
um,
bank investors, all the stuff that he does. Yeah.
that's cool. Um, my God, you've had some random career. Like, it's so
Dude,
cool. I love that
tell
kind of
me
stuff.
about it.
But
I
even
had
like
an
you say, there is that common thread. Like there is that, like if you're, working with, what would you call it? Like brand relations with Reebok. What's the common denominator is you have to be charismatic, you have to be likable, you have to be able to build relationships. If you're working with a company like Alico, like same thing. If
yeah,
you're coaching CrossFit, or if you're giving seminar staff, same thing. If you're, managing a group of people in an industry that you know fuck all about, like same
yeah.
thing. You better be charismatic and you better be likable. Like,
Yeah, yeah, but I think, like, I met this recruiter not too long ago, and they're just like, they sat down. He's like, "You've done a bunch of weird stuff, dude. I can't really like, what is it that really gets you excited?" I'm like, building teams that work. He's like, "But what business?" I'm like, I really couldn't care less. It's just I want to find that dynamic of people that work together as a group with this with a shared objective of how they move forward, whatever that is. Let me help you. I want to do that. Um, so yeah, so kind of making teams and groups reach their full potential. And I think whether that's the partnership with Les Mills, or if it's Alico, or if it's Reebok, or if it's the box, or whatever it is, I think it's still the same thing.
mm,
And I think that the big thing for me, anyways, is I'm not to be honest, I'm not very smart, but I want to be honest with the people that I kind of communicate with and that I work with. So it's like finding out what it is that you really, really need, and then finding out what it is I really, really need, and how do we help each other get there? How do we incentivize each other to feel that what you need is just as important as what I need? If I can find that, I'm happy.
yeah, it's interesting to say you're not that smart. I think if you truly weren't that smart, you wouldn't know that you're not that smart. You know, like
Well,
you'd pretend that you're really smart, and you'd like, make
sorry.
it seem as if you are. But I think, yeah, no, I think you're maybe downplaying yourself a little bit. I think you wouldn't have
No.
been as successful as you have been in all the things you've done. Like
Oh,
you
thank
you
you.
wouldn't have lasted more than a week at seminar staff. You wouldn't have lasted. They were like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" When you got to Reebok or you got to Eleco, they were like, "Well, who the fuck brought this guy in?"
Well, they may have thought so. No, but I mean, I think you're right to a certain degree. It's just that I get to hang out with people that are genuinely super smart. Like you meet Brian Friend, and you're like, how on earth? You meet Chase, and it's like, I don't know how you did that. You go to Lico, and you meet the guys who like sit there and do the math on the barbells and make sure that they. And it's like, who are you people? And you suddenly just feel more and more stupid, but you're aware that you're stupid, so you get to ask all the smart questions, I guess.
Yeah, I think I know. I think I definitely empathize, or like what you're talking about there resonates deeply with me there from doing this. Where like I'm interviewing people, and it's like, God, you ask like great questions, and it's like, yeah, I'm probably asking things. You usually hang out with clever people, so like they know the answer to all these questions. I'm asking questions that like I'm like, what? You run fast by running fast? It's like this doesn't make any
Huh?
sense.
You
Um,
move your legs.
yeah. You mentioned managing teams, and you mentioned getting groups of people to work together, and to that shared objective is the goal. You were the European coach for Invitationals, like that was the Sam Briggs, or the world's coach, wasn't it? That was the Sam Briggs
Yeah,
and Cara team. Like,
yeah.
God Almighty, I've forgotten the year.
I think it was
Six,
13.
13. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Like when you're asked to do that, or when you're approached about doing that, or when it becomes I don't know, like a reality that it's happening,
Yeah.
and these are like the biggest names in the sport, and they're going up against like the biggest names in the sport. Like is that, are you excited by the challenge of, again, like getting a group of people to work together, or are you like, oh fuck, like maybe I shouldn't have said anything about this?
I think it's a mix. No, but I was really excited about it. I was like, this just, it tickled everything in me. Like, how do you get people who are usually individual athletes to work together in a team? And you basically got 3 days to make it work. And on the other side of the fence, you've got these superheroes that worked out a little bit on their own. They've worked out a little bit together, and it's like, then there's the media, there's all these expectations, and then after a while you just kind of go, well, they're not my expectations, so how do I solve this? And then you meet these people, and I mean, I've met Sam Briggs since competition was hardly a competition. We were all just hanging out, high five and chest bumping, and we Sam Briggs was competing at, I think it was Divided We Fall, and we all slept at Matthew Evans' house. So I mean, from way back then, and she drove me to the arena the next day. So I kind of known her for a while, and Annie Thor's daughter, we've known her since the first European regionals at Eleco as well. So I knew some of these guys, and I kind of figured, well, the rest of them are just the same. So it was, I was a bit freaked out to start with, but I was also really tickled by the idea of, well, what if we make it work? So yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that coaching, like just gen pop and coaching like those kind of athletes, do you think that it's something that is overcomplicated, um that is overcomplicated by people, or do you think it's something that is underestimated by people? Like, do you think that like coaches at the highest level, it's assumed that what they do is like, like beautiful mind whiteboard type stuff, where like no one would ever understand what they're doing? Or do you think that it's the opposite of that, and if people really saw or really understood what they're doing, they'd be like, oh my god, anyone can do this?
Yeah, I think it's, God. I'm so boring. I think it's easy to say it's a bit of both, but I think, in all honesty, it's, if you're not a people person, you're going to try to make it hard, because you're going to try to find structures to make sure that, well, you kind of cover everything. But if you're a people person, and you get people to kind of want to work together, and they want to succeed as a team, I don't think you have to make it that complicated. But you need to get a buy-in as well from the group. So if you can get
Mm.
the group to buy in that, I think this person's actually going to be able to help, and then you kind of get to direct people toward the goal. I think it works out just fine. But if you can't get that buy-in, and then you need to get it somewhere else, and that's usually by structure. So it's like, what do you revert to when everything else goes wrong? Do you revert to being a nice guy, or do you revert to going, well, this is the modeler, this is the tool. We all have to use the tool. I mean, it's what we did 2013, or what I did 2013 was we met in Berlin, got the team together. I threw a workout on the board, and I was like, we're going to do this workout in 8 minutes. How are you going to solve it? And what happens is that you're going to find somebody who wants to be the leader. They're going to try to start sorting things, and then there'll be somebody that people naturally gravitate towards. That'll be the one that you want to make the leader. Now, you can't dump the person who wants to take responsibility, because obviously you're going to need that too. So how do you kind of accommodate those different needs in that group, and then get that dynamic working as you progress as well? So I think that's what we did, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I read, and it was like a text interview that you gave, and you said something similar to that about, that it became obvious who the loud person, and this isn't any disrespect, and
No, no, no,
I'm what would you call it? I'm not directly quoting what you said, but
no.
uh, you were basically saying, like, someone's going to be loud, and
Yep.
like someone's going to start talking first, but just because they start talking first doesn't necessarily mean that they're the person that you want talking all the time. Like that,
No.
that there's a so it's remarkable that you just wrote a workout up, because I think the easy thing to do there would be to assume, okay, Sam would put Sam in charge, because you know what I mean? Like, the easy
Yeah.
thing, I think a lot of coaches would fall, or a lot of just managers or whatever would fall into that trap of, they go in with a predisposition, or a preconceived notion of what everyone is like in the group, even if they've never met them, just from watching them compete or watching them in an office space or whatever they do,
Yeah.
and then think like, well, obviously it's going to be this person. And then you get this self-fulfilling prophecy where, well, I've said it's them, so I need to find the values in them that I've
Yes.
said I think they have, or else I'm going to look like a fucking idiot. So I
Yeah.
need to, whatever happens, they're my leader, even if it all
Yeah.
falls to shit.
But exactly. And I mean, I think that's where you need to kind of be you need to be, well, objective enough when you walk in there, and just kind of go, well, where did the chips fall, and how do we pick them up? Because we only really got, well, 2.5 days before we kind of need to
Mm.
before we need to get after it. So you can only you can only make it so right. So let's try to make it as right as possible. But I also think a lot of it is like, there's no stress on you as a coach. I mean, you can fail miserably and everybody's going to be fine because nobody's going to see you. But there's a lot of stress on these athletes. They've got endorsements, they've got brands of their own, they've got their own coaches, they've got the media, they've got a lot of media coverage on them as well. Everybody's going to know who they are, right?
Mm.
And so I think, how do you alleviate as much stress as possible without making them feel like they've not that they're not empowered? Sorry, that they're not empowered. And I think that's what we did.
Mm. As someone then who's coached at the top level, and who has a decent understanding of working with people, who do you think is the best, say, elite level coach that's out there now at the minute?
Oof. Wow.
Because, like, they're all so different. Like, I was thinking about this
Yeah.
today. I saw a video of Justin Kotler reacting to Danielle Brandon
Yes.
winning an event, and I was like, like, in my eyes, he's the perfect mix. And there's no disrespect to any other coach, but I just think, for my personality, he's just perfect for what I would want.
Yeah.
Like, he's so entirely fully in their corner, like
Yeah.
that unwavering support.
Yeah.
And he has a no holds barred approach to talking about them. So, like, I've asked him, and I've heard other people ask him, and him being like, openly talking about, well, Danielle obviously needs, like, a lot of management as a person.
Yeah.
And, like, a lot of coaches would shy away from talking about that, because they're like, oh, what if they get pissed off, like, that I
Yeah.
talked about them or whatever. And then just his just raw emotion, and, like, and I don't know, maybe it's just because he has young kids as well, and I think I like that because I have young kids or whatever. But then, obviously, like, Shane obviously really fucking knows what he's doing as well, and, like, I'll be interested to see what Adam can do with, like, Ellie, because he's done so well with Justin, and he's done so well with teams and stuff. But I was curious, from your viewpoint of watching from literally a bird's eye view of competition floors,
Yeah.
and from being privy to what it's like to be a coach working with individuals or teams, and what it's like to be a coach watching an event or watching how people engage with each other, and the fact that you have so much experience with managing teams away from sport, like, is there someone that stands out as, yeah, okay, maybe they're not the most dominant coach, but I think they're the best coach?
Not, I wish I could answer that. Like, I genuinely want to say this is my idol, but I don't have one as it is right now, because I think it's all down to who that athlete is. I think the magic is whether the athlete finds the right coach. Like, Danielle needs a bunch of just support as a person and on a personal level. Let's say that she meets this coach who won't be able to give her that, or doesn't want to give her that, because that's just not the way that person is, and can't be as emotional about what goes on as she would be. That wouldn't work. Let's imagine that Tia got a person who was the same way. I don't think she reacts or responds to it that way. I think she's more of a, okay, give me my job, and then I'll go out there and execute, and then let's talk about afterwards why that worked or didn't work, and then we'll work it that way. So I think the magic is about finding the right combination, and I think any coach and any athlete can be amazing if you find the right combination. It just needs to be the right combination. I mean, I've had athletes that I've been coaching where it's been like, we're not going to work. We're not going to be able to take you to that point. And then I've kind of referred them to other coaches where I think they're going to be able to have a better career. And I'd like to think that they have had a better career.
Yeah. You said in a post recently, there's like a picture of you with a microphone, and you said that you like podcasts.
I love them.
What do you like about them?
I like conversations. I like conversations with people. I think it's yeah, I don't know. I just like listening to other people's, like, when you get to a point where they speak their mind freely, where it's not like, we're looking for a sensation or whatever it is. It's just a conversation. I just really, really like that. And I can get completely engulfed in anybody who's, it used to be, you'd say that somebody's a nerd and it'd be like, oh, that's a bad thing. But anybody who's like genuinely passionate enough about anything to kind of take it to extremes, I want to hear about it. And podcasts, I think, are the perfect vessel for that.
Yeah, I think, like, one of the good things about them as well is that it's starting to happen now a bit, unfortunately, but they're not like commercialized yet. They're not like owned by big brands yet. They're not,
No.
like, if you tune into a radio station, you're going to hear their side of the news. You're going to hear their
Yes.
side of, like, they're going to push certain things that they want talked about, or the way that they want you to feel about certain things or whatever. And it just becomes like, you can flick through all the different radio stations, and the opinion will be different, but the delivery will be the same or whatever,
Yeah.
Whereas I think with podcasts, there might be some similarity in delivery, but the opinion will be different, or,
Yeah.
like, it'll be so vastly different in delivery that it doesn't matter that the opinion is the same or whatever.
Yeah.
Now there are obviously, I don't know what it's like globally, but I know there's like a fucking AIB podcast, like, like a bank podcast. And it's like, why have we
Yeah.
got a podcast ran by a fucking bank? Or why have we got a podcast ran by a baby food company? Like, this is,
Yeah.
like, can we not just have dickheads like me with a microphone in their front room, and instead of, like, when you see, I remember I was talking to somebody recently, and I was like, I don't know, they put up a post or something, or a story, and I replied to it, and I said, oh, it's like, best, they were starting a podcast, and I was like, oh, best of luck with it, like, it'll be fun or whatever. And they replied and said, oh, thanks, guys. And then I said, oh, it's actually just me, like, it's just there's no plural, like, it's just one person. And then they said, like, oh yeah, it's just me this end as well, and, like, like, whatever, like, whatever producer is there, and, like, they started listing off, like, all these job titles, and I was like, okay, like,
What?
technically it's just you replying to this message. I assume you're not all typing a letter each, but, like, this is not a one-man operation. So yeah, I think that's going to become more and more prevalent, where there's conglomerates moving into the space. So I just kind of hope that it doesn't dilute it too much, because, like you, I like listening to, and it's funny as well, where I've spoken to people who are like, oh, like, especially after I had Savannah on, who are like, oh, I don't know how you can fucking listen to him. Like, Jesus, he's so stupid. Like the opinions he holds are so whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, fine, whatever. Like, just skip that episode. Like, just
Exactly.
if you really feel that way about it, just no judgment for you feeling that way. Whatever. Like, you can skip it, or you can just not listen to it, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or as is, and there's a nice little circular narrative appearing here from the start of the episode, but you might change your mind if you actually listen and not just hear what's being said, but actually listen to it. Where,
Yeah.
okay, there's a lot of stuff Savan says where I'm like, oh my fucking God, like, what are you talking about? But like, at least once an episode listening to him, I'll stop and be like, fuck, I never actually thought of that way. Or I wonder how many other people think like that. Like, maybe that,
Yeah.
explains why that person said that time, or whatever. Like, it's an interesting way of looking at things. And if nothing else, it's entertaining. Even if what he's saying
Yeah.
is total cockrot, it's still
Yep.
entertaining.
But I mean, I think Savan is batshit crazy. He's always been absolutely fucking off the rock. But I mean, I met him just when we opened up CrossFit Nordic. He came for CrossFit to Sweden right before we had the regionals, and then he was hanging out at the box, and I don't know. We hit it off really, really well. Now, do we agree on everything? God knows, no. Have we had our discussions about a bunch of things? Absolutely. Does he think I'm absolutely insane? Probably. Do I respect him though, that for his opinions? Absolutely. That doesn't mean we have to agree. And I think that's one of the things that I like about podcasts and about Savan particularly, is he's okay with people not agreeing.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's like one of the things that's going to progress us as a community and as individuals as well, is that we allow other people to have other opinions. We will discuss with them, and then we agree that, hey, we don't agree on this. Let's see who's right at the end of the day. That's fine. So no, I think you should listen to all of those as well, even the ones that you don't agree with. Just listen to them, for crying out loud. I mean, what's the worst that can happen is that you walk away and you go, yeah, still don't agree. Okay, we're good. But don't just ignore it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think you kind of end up in an echo chamber, and it's comfortable there. It's comfortable to be like, I don't know, whether your opinion is valid or invalid, or like, sensical or nonsensical. If your opinion is that women shouldn't have a vote, and you only ever talk to other people who think women shouldn't have a vote, like,
Yeah,
and there's parallels of that, of like, if you thought something that you think is sensible, and I'm sure the people who think women shouldn't have a vote have in their head what appears to be a logical argument as to why.
yeah,
But if they never hear the other side of it, then you know what I mean? And
no,
I'm sure the same is transfers for, more rational thoughts
yeah,
about,
absolutely. But I mean,
gender or whatever.
it becomes CrossFit. It becomes CrossFit HQ in its glory days, when nobody dared say anything because you were petrified that you were gonna get in trouble because you spoke your mind, and you kind of ventilated your private opinions in the public space. So everybody just kind of shut up instead. I don't think that was healthy.
Yeah. When did you notice that started happening?
I think, God, I'm gonna sound so boring, and I realize that as I answer your questions. But I think as soon as CrossFit became global, as soon as Reebok came on board, and more money kind of came in from seminars and from everything else, and it kind of grew, and there was a narrative that was really important for CrossFit. I think that at that point, instead of just allowing things to happen and then just kind of roll the way it had in the past, I think CrossFit was trying really hard to control the narrative, and I think people were managed by fear. So it was like, hey, don't talk about this, don't say this, you can't say this, and if you do, then, and then people started within the community started saying stuff like, oh man, I said this and that, and so this and that happened to me, and it was like, so other people started shutting up as well. And I think that was unfortunate, because I think one of the beautiful things about CrossFit to start with was, if you read level one, it's like, hey, I have no ego, is what everybody said at level one. It's like, if you show up tomorrow with roller skates, a little skirt, listening to whatever on a boombox, cruising around the street, would you beat me at our tests? I'm going to start doing the same thing tomorrow. And that was kind of like an open to, hey, show me what you got, and if it's better, then I'll start using it. But after a while, that's not what happened. It took us a long time to acknowledge officially that people who were competing at the games weren't using CrossFit.com as their method, their medicine, right? That took us a while. even though everybody knew us, like these guys are doing 2 a days and they're almost pros. So
Yeah.
I think
Interesting
that
as
is
well.
getting better, though. Got to say that. I think that has gotten a lot better over the last years.
Yeah, well, I mean, apart from anything else, there's an opportunity for the ecosystem to grow and coaches to, make a living and athletes to make a living and that kind of stuff, which is important as well. Because, like, up until recently, they were kind of just gladiators that went in for our amusement or whatever. And now at least they can, they're not really slaves anymore. They can, and I don't mean to demean or to, you know, belittle what slavery led to or what slaves went through, but like they
No,
were
no.
like they were essentially going into an arena to entertain us, and
Yeah,
then I was like, all right, that's done, see you next year. Whereas
yeah.
now at least they can have this kind of steady flow of income and they can maybe grow into a professional or a professional sport or whatever.
Yeah,
um
but I didn't mean as much for athletes, because I think they always kind of spoke their minds. I was more within CrossFit HQ. I think there was a period of time where people who worked for CrossFit HQ wouldn't speak their mind, and as a consequence, I think development within the company was, it didn't stop, but it was slowed down a lot. And I think that's changed a lot. So I think a lot more voices are being heard within CrossFit HQ now, and I think as a consequence, I think the company is evolving faster.
hmm. Well, look, I could talk to you all day. You're a fascinating man. We'll finish with a quick fire.
Yeah,
So barbell or dumbbell?
barbell,
Cardio or gymnastics?
cardio,
Commentate or coach?
coach,
Box or competition?
box,
Bike or run?
oh, bike,
Thrusters or burpees?
burpees,
And Denmark or Sweden?
Sweden.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah,
God, I really didn't expect that. That's interesting.
you didn't?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I just
I traded in my Danish citizenship for Swedish citizenship,
like figuratively or literally.
literally.
Why did you have to trade it in? Can you not
I,
keep
did, I
both? No.
didn't. I could have kept both, but I've got my wife here. I've got my son here. I'm not going anywhere. So I was just like, if I'm going to commit, I'm going to commit 100%. I want to be here.
What's that? Burn the boats, isn't that the?
That's it. That's
That's
exactly what it is.
Well, listen, this was fascinating. You're a great guy to talk to. We've covered a lot there, I think, and I think you'll surely have to come back on another day for another conversation, because there was just deep, rich veins of stuff there. There was a lot of little tangents that I was like, no, don't get caught into that one. Let's move back. But listen, that was brilliant. Thanks very much. I really appreciate you coming back on, and hopefully, are you going to Strength and Depth?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Oh, I'll buy you a coffee at Strength and Depth. I'm going to that.
Dude, that
So
would be awesome.
I'd
That'd be
love that.
awesome.